introduce our?
Yes, would love to introduce you. We have public comments tonight. Good evening, commissioners. Good to see you all. We have from St. Vincent de Paul in Sammamish. We have Burke here with us tonight to make some public comments. So join us. Put your people. So whenever you would.
St. Vincent de Paul is one of the, which bucket did it fall under? I should know this.
Emergency financial assistance. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. So it's they provide emergency financial assistance, in particular rent assistance and utilities. And as you may remember or know from our grantees, we currently fund the St. Vincent de Paul in Issaquah, but we do not provide funding to the Sammamish group. Although, as Burke, you're going to hear from Burke in a minute, they do fund a good pocket in Issaquah. It's the 29 zip code in Issaquah, and so they do provide quite a bit of funding to Issaquah residents.
Ron Zanko, our president, wants to be here as well. I assume he will get here, but he was going to give you a rousing introduction.
Who did you say that's?
Ron Zanko.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah, he's the president of our group. So as you know, we're members of St. Vincent de Paul from Mary Queen of Peace Catholic Church in Sammamish. And what we're here to do is to announce our intention to request grant assistance from the city of Issaquah. And as we just talked about, the St. Vincent de Paul mission is to provide emergency assistance, financial assistance to families living within the boundaries of our parish, which in the case of Mary Queen of Peace includes both the city of Sammamish and northwest Issaquah. The area in northwest Issaquah is outside the parish boundaries of St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Therefore, their St. Vincent de Paul does not service that area, and it falls into our responsibility. Included in that area are some significant housing complexes, which would include the YWCA Family Village, Issaquah View, Langara, the Timbers, Park Hill, and the Highlands at Windhaven Apartments. And population density in these areas is high, and they are certainly not your typical single family communities. In 2023, our assistance to Issaquah residents for things such as rent, utilities, gasoline, food, and other essentials totaled $68,500. Similar assistance to Sammamish residents was $64,500, so about $4,000 less than we are providing to Issaquah residents. The assistance to Sammamish residents was greatly offset by a $35,000 grant that we get from the city of Issaquah. That's a biennial grant. It's good for 2 years. We got no grant money from the city of Issaquah, primarily because we've never asked for that assistance. We've now reached a point where we're going to need to do that. Requests for assistance from Sammamish and Issaquah have grown over time. We've had all this development, a lot of new people in the area, a lot of people who are Section 8 or similar situations, and they need money. So for us to better assist both communities, we're prepared to ask for a grant for 2025 and 2026. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to dodge them.
Thank you so much for speaking to the commission. Typically during the public comments, the commissioners do not ask questions, but definitely if there's anything, we would be happy to follow up. And then Hannah and I will be in touch with you and Ron. I know we communicated via email when the grant application opens, and so we'll provide any support that we can on our end. So Thank you so much. And so I know you said that Ron might be coming. If he's coming, I'll ask the commission if they would like to hear another public comment, then we can come back to that. We no problem if that's gonna be something that the commissioners would want to do. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you so much for speaking tonight. And for all the work that you're doing, supporting residents.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I think that concludes. I did not hear from anyone else about other public comments for tonight.
Okay.
And
All right, so we're gonna move on to the approval of the minutes.
And while commissioners, while you read over the minutes, I realized we skipped over the call to order. Just wanted to let you know that Preston is not gonna be here tonight, and then Maury also had a family emergency. So please keep him in your thoughts. But other than that, all commissioners are here and we have court.
Thank you. Okay, approval of the minutes. Does anybody want to make a motion? This would have been for the January 24th meeting. You can take a minute if you want to read it.
Mr. Brown, I move that we accept the minutes as.
You just made a motion?
Yes.
Okay, anybody want to second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? It sounds like it's probably going to be unanimous approval. Everybody that approves, say aye. Yay, I think that's approved unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to Human Services Division introductions and updates.
And we are ready to do introductions and updates, but I just saw someone coming in and I think that's wrong. Commissioners, would you like to hear another public comment? If there's
That'd be great.
Yeah. Welcome.
Drive it all on the same.
If you would like to make another public comment, one, but if you're interested, you're welcome to come.
I'll probably just, I'm sure Bert did a fine job, but just briefly, just to share, I'm new to the St. Vincent de Paul Society. I've been with this 4 years, been president last year, was my first year. And being a finance guy, I took a look at the finances and where the sources were coming from. And I quickly realized that there was kind of a disconnect between who we were serving and, and the money. So the boundaries are kind of weird the way it's drawn with parishes versus conferences. And we realized that we have a large portion of Issaquah that, uses about 55% of funding. So I just thought it would be worthwhile to, ask and make sure people were aware of what was happening and how we serve the people in Issaquah. So that was really my point, just to see if we could get part of the grant money this year. Appreciate the consideration. And sorry for being late.
Thank you for being here, and you're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or you're welcome to however you would like.
Ryan, you and I have talked a lot on the phone. I'm Trish.
Oh, yeah, Trish, hey, good to meet you. Absolutely.
Okay, so on to human services updates and introductions. Commissioners, since we had new staffing and all sorts of new programming, I thought that it's a great opportunity tonight for me to come and introduce some of our new staff and give you some updates on where we are. And so I want to step back a little bit to provide you a little bit of an overview, because I know some of you are newer and also a lot has changed in the last few years. So I'm gonna go way back to 5 years ago when I first joined the city. I was a staff of me and myself and the human services functions at the city at that time were really limited to the grants that we were giving out to the community, right? Fast forward a couple of years ago, we really started increasing and creating a division. The human services currently focus on a wide range of different programming that we do as direct service providers at the city. So we are very fortunate. We started initially with a homeless outreach program. Then we piloted also a behavioral health program. We had 1, then 2 staff for that. The behavioral health program worked in supporting the work of the police department in any 911 calls that the police would get that were behavioral health related, not criminal in nature. So that's how we started that program with one staff. And then the homeless outreach program was really to help us inform what does homelessness look like in Issaquah and start connecting with unhoused community members. So we started those programs both in 2021, 2022. And last year, you may recall, City Council approved additional funding to create actually a community or a co-response program that essentially it's going to be a 4-person team that again combines both homeless outreach and behavioral health. So works directly with the police department and also helping respond to homelessness in our city. So we are very, very close to having that 4-person team. We are now at a 3-person team. I think you might have met and heard definitely before about Amir. He's our longest employee. He started with us in 2021. But just recently, a month ago, I'm happy to say that we also hired Lisa Monahan, who's here with us tonight, and then Brenda Parker. Both of them started a month ago, and then just last week we promoted Brenda to the supervisory position. So that 4-person team includes a half supervisor who's going to be also doing direct services and supervision. So that's Brenda's role. So it's not a half supervisor, it's really a supervisor. She's gonna have a lot of hats. And then very, very honored to work with both Brenda and Lisi and Amir are the coordinators currently on the team, and we are hiring for the 4th person and the last position part of the team. So I invite you to just introduce yourselves a little bit. They both bring a wealth of experience in working with children and adults and all different, but I don't want to steal the show, so I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, but just so happy to have them on the team.
Awesome. First, yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Lisa Monahan, originally from San Diego, California. Moved here to go to UW. Go Huskies. Hopefully she'll get it. Yes. Before this work, I was in Snohomish County, working in the dependency system, close with the courts. For children who've been removed from their homes due to abuse and neglect. And prior to that, I was a counselor at Echo Lynn Children's Center, providing DBT therapy for all the juveniles there. So I'm excited to now work for the city that I've lived in for the past 6 years. So I'm excited to help my community with direct service. So thank you. Look forward to interacting with you all.
Thanks, Lisa.
Start up since I'm kind of hidden back here. I'm Brenda Parker, and I am new to the community, fairly new. I lived in North Bend for a short time, but it's the first time in Issaquah. My background is in mental health. I've been a therapist for about 13 years, and I've worked in all different environments. So inpatient, outpatient, intensive outpatient, drug and alcohol services, all kinds of different settings. And then most recently I was doing private practice, and I just found that I was doing telehealth, and I just found it to be very isolating. And so I decided to get back into the community and to be working face to face with people again. So I'm really excited about that. Really excited to be stepping so quickly into this role as supervisor. So it's a bit of a learning curve for me, but I have wonderful teammates here with me and another one in the office, Amir. So yeah, just looking forward to being here. And I just want to say too, having been in this community just a short period of time, I've lived all over. I've lived in Nebraska, Oregon, Idaho, California, all kinds of places. And I feel more a sense of community in Issaquah than I have anywhere. So I think that says a lot for the work that you've done, and just the feeling that you get here is special. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. So any questions, commissioners, or anything related to the behavioral health and homeless outreach team, soon to be the community? We are playing with a name yet. We don't have like an official, very core. But community response team for now. It's generic what we are.
Is that the name, community response team?
So it's not final. That's kind of our generic name. If you like this. Yes, thank you for that. We should probably come up with a few and bring it back for you to vote on on a few. So yeah.
We can cut all the red tape.
Yes, thank you.
I'll make a comment. Commissioner Fajardo, I would say thank you. I really do. In terms of investment around mental health and community and so forth, I work in the court system in Snohomish County in terms of probations and probation programs there. And I've always seen such a lack of, more, if it's substance use, it's mental health, if it's mentoring, if it's education, employment. And I see more cities working towards more of an investment towards city responses. So this is super cool to see this happen in real time and kind of have more investment with our kids and families and onto adults. So I appreciate for you both coming in and presenting in regards to responses to our community. Mhm.
Thank you so much, Jaime, for sure. And I think I'm also very proud and very humbled, very grateful for the city's initiative and investment, especially for the size of our city. Definitely, I think the commitment to human services is shown. We have a pretty good team for the size of our city. So.
Are you in the middle of the hiring process for the fourth one, or is that application open?
Yes, we just opened the application on Friday. We are in the middle of hiring, so if you know someone, please send them.
Yeah, I was going to send it to some circles.
Yes, please, yes. And I can follow up with an email if you would like to. It's
Thank you,
You get a pet, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thanks for crawling over me. What
Since I'm
was
a
that?
human services, I'll let them go.
Oh, maybe
The
not.
door.
It's a giant. I could see from over here and I'm so happy. Kevin's like, oh. You should see it too.
Oh, stink bugs. Yes, they're all over.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Okay.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, relocated it.
Take that.
Thank you, Manny.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so those are a couple of updates on the behavioral and homeless outreach team. This is also part of the staff report, but I'm gonna give you now the report. So since I'm giving you an update about the entire human services, on the emergency housing program, as you may recall, we started that in July. It's essentially our first shelter in Issaquah. It's an emergency housing program that is going well, going strong. We continue to have 3 staff providing a 7-day coverage for the program. We currently have 13 participants in the program. So far, we served about 23 benefited from the program. You will see again next week, actually, we are going to the City Council Services, Safety and Parks Committee to provide an update on the strategic plan. You may recall we talked about that here last month, but we are also going to begin conversations with City Council on long-term planning for the emergency housing program, because that program is currently still in a pilot phase. We have approval for funding until the end of this year, until 2024. We would like to start community conversations with City Council and hope to provide some options for long-term planning in the 2025-2026 budget proposal that's going to go to City Council next fall. So more to come. You will hear more from us on that, but also if you have questions, if you have thoughts, if you have concerns, ideas, we would love to hear them, but we will bring that item back here.
I do have a question. You said that you've served 23 and there's currently 13. So 10 have been involved and then they've moved out.
Yes, so 10 have been involved and they've moved out.
And what are those 10 doing? All right, just in general.
Right, yes. So they're doing a combination of different things. 3 successfully moved to permanent housing. I believe 4 or 5 have been connected with families. They were typically from out of state. So for a period of time, if you may remember, we had a set aside room, a standby room for the police department to use. And so that room was used for short periods of time when somebody needed a place to stay, but shelters were not available. They were involved with the police and the jail was not the place for them, right? So then often we would use that standby room for that. And then most often those participants had family connections, maybe in another state, that we provided that connection and they moved out. So we had a few of those. And then unfortunately, we also had two that were unsuccessful. So they transitioned out unsuccessfully. So a combination of things. But overall, a lot of good lessons learned from the program, and I think a very, very helpful resource for the community here locally.
80% not a bad start.
Yeah,
Yes, no. But we had a lot of good, we actually just were talking today about some of the lessons learned that were surprising for us as we didn't know what we didn't know when we first started, right? A lot of community members, you know, we might interact with them on the streets or in the in encampments, or they might come to our office, but we really didn't start learning some of the challenges that they didn't know they were having until they actually moved indoor, right? So after being outdoors for 5, 6 or more years, people even forgot the concept of doing laundry, for example. You know, sometimes it was even difficult, like, especially as they were used to just having clothes and wearing them until they wore out, like sometimes bringing indoor and trying to even just grasp the things that we take for granted, or going for the first time in a restaurant and trying to order things. Somebody came and shared with me saying, I haven't been in a restaurant for 23 years. I don't even know what to do with the menu, right? So they're just like some of those skills that we take for granted and they come normal to us, that it takes a long time to transition. And these are just giving you a couple of examples, because when we present data, but it's so hard to capture this information in a quantifiable data and be able to share the story on how important it is to have a safe place to stay. And it might take longer to even look for a job, because first we need to learn how to do laundry, or how often we should shower, just because you lose that skill when your only thing is survival.
No, I assume that Ms. Parker, was it?
Yes.
So it'll be helping in that realm too, is that part of there?
So right now, Brenda and Lisa work in the community response program. So they do connect and coordinate with the emergency housing program, but mainly as using it as a resource if we have openings, or just coordinating with the team. Other than that, Brenda and Lisa's role is going to be really primarily to respond to every time we get calls from police or dispatch. When they receive 911 calls and somebody's in crisis, they are going to go to respond to those.
I have a question. Does the housing participants, are they assigned social workers after they complete the program?
Yeah, so part of the program requirement for them is to work with so we have currently 3 full-time staff who help with that. So they're each assigned to at least one of them. And so then they work on different goals. We actually use a wellness wheel model to where they have 7 or 8 goal areas that we encourage them to develop goals in. Like one is mental health and physical health, and one is employment and housing and emotional and spiritual health. And so, yes, they would work one-on-one with that person.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Then in addition, we also do a lot of like meal provision and workshops and all sorts of activities happening there.
I find it interesting that I feel that Issaquah is ahead of the game, because we're not the only city that's having problems with homelessness and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see this going on. It's a good start.
good model.
Love the program.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always asking questions.
No, please ask. Thank you.
You guys are
I'm
doing a
so
great
proud
job.
and I have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
We can't take credit for any of it, but it makes me so proud of our city.
Yeah, and we
Thank you
should
for
be
doing
proud of our city, I think, for sure. we took a leap of faith because you don't often see shelters managed by a city, by a government entity. And
Right.
definitely we learned a lot of lessons that there are so many things that we would like to do and we cannot do because we are a city, right? And so most often shelter programs are managed by nonprofit providers. But it was important for us to try it in Issaquah because we heard that it's needed. And so I think definitely we have a lot of lessons learned, but it's so needed. And
What's the number that's needed at this point?
that's a great question, Manny. So I think probably being able to increase capacity and maybe having a capacity of like, let's say approximately 30, I think would make a bigger dent in our city. And so I think that answers your question. But it also always changes.
Whether.
Right, people transition. And also, again, we're lucky we made a dent, I think, because so over the last couple of years with homeless outreach, we were able to really move, since we started, to move nearly 40 people into permanent housing before we even started this program. So we made a dent in those who were local Issaquah residents who were unhoused. We made a dent in that. Now, the challenge, though, is the emergency housing program is a resource, but because of the location, we are at Motel 6, where the motel also functions as a motel.
Right.
It's not everybody's a good fit for that program, right?
Right.
So even if we increase capacity to 50 or 100, not everybody's going to be a good fit for that. So it's a resource. So that's why I think my response for you. But no, great conversation, great questions. So more to come definitely this year on this topic, and please don't hesitate to continue to ask the right questions and let us know how. Okay, I think that's it. And then in terms of our Hannah, she's out, but you're about to get very, very busy as early as next month with the Human Services Grant Cycle opening. So definitely all you're gonna hear about, it's gonna be that in the upcoming months. So I'm not gonna provide much of an update other than just reminding you that the application process opens early March. It's gonna end, it's gonna close in April, and then starting in April, you're going to become very, very busy. So thank you so much for all the work that you're about to do in the upcoming months.
No, are there commissioners that are here today, or so human services are that's transitioning out of human services, or are we losing anybody?
Oh, if we're losing anybody. I don't believe we are losing anybody.
I can't, but I wrote Hannah an email saying that I was interested in continuing, so.
Yeah. So thank you. So this is part, again, this was going to be one of my reminders during the staff report, but we are here. So I'm going to tell you, let's connect. I know Hannah's coming back next week, but the applications for the board and commissions are open now. So you would just need to reapply. I'm happy to connect and send you the link if you don't have it, but that's the only thing. Okay. So it sounds like we are not losing any commissioners unless somebody else would like to leave, probably not.
And we have one vacancy already.
We have one vacancy alternate, so we are gonna try to fill that vacancy to provide you more more muscle, so you don't have to read as many applications. So, and so then last note on that, because it's related, on March 25th, there has been an equity training scheduled that falls on a Monday. The equity training has been scheduled as a joint training with the other commissions on the east side, Bellevue, Redmond, Sammamish, and Kirkland. It seems like the provider who is doing the workshop is only available on that day. So that's going to be the only day. I'm working, however, with my fellow partners on the east side to make sure that the meeting is provided in a hybrid format also, because right now it's only in person in Redmond. And I'm like, during rush hour, that's going to be an hour, 40-minute drive. It's not going to work for our commission. So I'm working on that. If push comes to shove and that's not available, we'll do something else just on our end.
So that's something that would be open to all of us.
Yes. to all of you, yes.
And what time on the 25th?
I don't have yet those details. I asked her exactly about that and we don't have those details, but we'll let you know.
But in the evening.
It's probably in the evening. Most of the time it's in the evening, so I would imagine 6:30.
And it's only offered to commissioners. and council
Commissioners,
meetings.
yes, yes. So the Human Services Commissions on the east side, the 5 commissions.
Well, will it be the same training we had like 2 years ago?
Similar, probably, yes, very similar. So it's just to help you with having an equity lens to the granting process. Okay, sorry. Okay, any other questions or? Okay,
Are we
then
moving?
we are ready to move to the next one.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you'd already moved to it.
Thank you for that. Actually, I think I drive my staff crazy too because we have an agenda and we start and then I always jump to that. Okay.
All connected.
Okay, it's all connected.
Are we moving to the Human Services Grants Annual Report now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I so appreciate you, Commissioner Centris. So for this, I actually have a presentation that Hannah put together before she left on vacation. She was like, Monica, you're gonna need help, take this. I'm so grateful for her work.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. See you in the morning. Take care, bye-bye. Okay. So Hannah put together, as you know, she's coordinating all the grants and at the beginning of each year, we do an annual report on the previous year's grants. So that's what we have here for you tonight. And so providing you first going back just as a refresher and background, you may recall that for this previous funding cycle for 2023 and 2024, we had allocated about $556,000 per year, so a little bit over $1 million for the 2 years. And those funds went to support 34 different organizations across 42 programs. So you may recall that one organization may apply and may receive funding to more than one program. And especially some larger organizations might have behavioral health services and they might have shelter services, or they might have a combination of food and other services, right? So the equivalent of residents supported with the funding was about 4,000, close to 5,000 residents. And we always say the equivalent because these are never unduplicated residents. So it's just an estimated number based on that we calculate based on the amount of funding that we have available and based on the cost of service of each organization. And the reason why it's never unduplicated is because, let's say, 2 organizations may support the same resident, but they count as 2. I don't want to get too complicated on that. So the funding that we provided by priority area, and as you recall, these are our focus areas based on the strategic plan, and these are going to continue to be our focus areas for the next funding cycle. So on the housing continuum, community resources, physical and behavioral health, and language access and cultural services. So as you can see, it's a pretty even distribution of the number of programs that we funded, and also the amount of money that we provided is not completely even, but it's comparable compared to the number of programs that applied and then they received funding. Any questions so far about this? Okay. So when we look at the performance of our grantees and the contract management portion that Hannah provides, we look always at timeliness in completing their reports to the city, completeness, right, and accuracy. Did they meet their service unit goals and did they meet their resident goals? So each agency has at least one service unit goal, and some agencies can have up to 3 service unit goals. So for example, let's say we talked about emergency financial assistance tonight. So an organization may say, okay, they received $20,000, and for those $20,000, they commit to serve, let's say, 40 Issaquah residents, and the service unit goal might be related to utility payments, and another service goal might be related to rent assistance. And so that's how it trickles down. So in terms of timeliness and completeness, 93% of the programs that we funded submitted their reports on time, and all of them were correct and complete. Often we do have agencies, probably the biggest challenges with them submitting reports on time or complete is often changing staffing or just not enough support. And most often, if they are not able to submit the reports on time, we do get an email asking for an extension. Not all the time, but and it's not a big, we understand it's difficult. So at the time when this report was done, we didn't have all the data in for the 4th quarter. So actually, I think we did. We just forgot to change the numbers there. The quarter 3, quarter 4. So it is at the end of quarter 4. So 83% of the programs met their annual service goals, and 17% did not meet. So 35 out of the 42 programs.
Do we know which service areas they did not meet the goal?
We do. We have that information. I don't have it on the slide here. I can look it up for you tonight if you know. Yes, I just didn't want to call out agencies and shame them in the meeting, but we do have
the area.
Yes, we do. So that's why we know for each organization, and we just again, our goal is to provide the technical assistance and work with the organizations, and they don't meet them, and that's why. We don't want to.
Understood.
Certainly, I can follow up if you would like. The nice thing is that, as you saw a couple of slides ago, our funding was really with the funding that we had, we anticipated that we will support closely, a little bit over 4,000 residents, right? But the funding actually went and supported 15,000 residents. So most of the time, our organizations that we support, they leverage the funds that we give them. And so then that gives them the opportunity to really increase their support to more residents. So I think that's a big takeaway. And for you as commissioners to know that most of the time the funding that you give is not just cut and dry, it's going to be really leveraged. So but kind of surprising and something that we kept an eye on this past year, the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank stand out as serving a lot more residents. So really in the past, even during COVID, the past few years, they were serving 3,000 residents per year. And this year they served 7,000 residents. So
Crazy.
It is crazy. It's not a number that we want to see go up, right? Ideally, we would like to see the number go down. Also meeting with Food and Clothing Bank staff, they did share that more and more people, they don't feel that they only serve low income people. More and more they do serve people who have been laid off and are more like the middle class population that struggles, especially with the inflation. And the last couple of years have been hard. Any questions so far? Okay. So I just called out one of the highlights, really, I know Hannah works really closely with all the organizations, and she always takes such a big pride in the fact that organizations, sometimes they're so busy in providing their own services, but then when they get a chance to connect with other organizations, just that ability to network and share resources with one another has been very, very helpful. Hannah's role a lot is try to also connect not just residents to services, but connect organizations to organizations. That has been helpful. So continuing some other highlights, just a few call outs for some of the local services. You all know the Issaquah Meals Program, serving meals from the community hall here. They really served in 2023, 335 unduplicated guests. So that's also another speaks volume to the number of people who need and receive meals. And then volunteers served over nearly 7,000 meals. And this does not include the weekend meals program. I just had recently, they served about 1,000 meals also for the year. So quite a few people receiving. Also, I want to highlight and give them a big shout out. In our emergency housing program, we also, our participants access the meals program and receive meals from them as well. So we are utilizing that. Few highlight stories, Crisis Connections, as you know, regional organization. They have the 211. They have now also the 988 suicide line, and also provide all sorts of regional services and access to information and services. So on their end, the highlight related to them is that they were able to increase their salary for their staff, the wages to their salary by nearly 30%. So for a nonprofit to be able to do that and have minimum wage provided to their staff at $25 an hour, that is big, because that has not been the case in nonprofits. So definitely that's something, hoping that more nonprofits are able to get there, but it's not that easy to get there, right? Some of the challenges, as you already heard, say the need increasing in number of residents served and needs have been increasing, decreasing funding donations. You might have heard this, we noticed this last year as well. And you heard me say that needs expand beyond residents with low income. One of the things, if some of you were here during the pandemic, but we talked a lot during the pandemic that we are not so worried in human services about pandemic years, because during that time when it's a moment of crisis, everybody pitches in, everybody helps out, donations tend to increase. There's also some federal aid that comes, one-time funding. We always worry about 3-4 years down the line, and that's where we are now, because all the one-time funding and emergency funds that were available at the federal level are drying out. Those who were able, individual partners and private donors, and those who go to churches and parishes, they no longer have that ability to keep on donating. So this is when we see a decline in donations and an increase in needs. And we see also the aftermath, like especially, I know that even at Issaquah Community Services, there were so many layoffs in the tech industry, and now we are starting to see also the consequences of those as people find it harder and harder to go back to work. And so something to keep in mind, and something good information for you to have as you're going to look at the grant applications that we are going to receive in the next couple of months. So we talked a little bit, just a few highlights about the continued increase at the Issaquah Food and Clothing Bank. You may recall they did a winter coat drive.
Is that reversed? Should it be 212 to 880?
880 coats were provided to 200 people. Does that make sense? Or 200 families, probably. Actually.
Probably something, yeah, something, yeah.
Yes.
I bet it was family.
Families, I think it's families, yes. Yeah, so the number of coats that they gave away, it was an 88% increase for 2028, yes. Yes, it's families. It has to be families.
Unless somebody got 4 codes.
4 codes, but that would mean that, yes, not too many. Everybody got 4 codes, that doesn't make sense.
Oh.
And as you know, the food bank also provides the school power packs. And then their holiday gift program supported nearly 2,000 children from 700 families. So I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure that the 808 to 200 families.
That makes sense because I volunteered and they did give anywhere from 1 to 4 codes, depending on what time you arrived. How many were remaining to provide per person?
Again, we talked about this job loss and inflation. I'm always ahead, a few slides ahead. I don't, yeah.
Isn't Paul?
Yes, St. Vincent de Paul. Yes, here on the screen though is St. Vincent de Paul, the
St. Joe's.
St. Joe's
Yeah.
conference, the Issaquah conference. So this is, if you remember, speaking of one-time funds, right? Last March, just a year ago. So you can also approve the one-time emergency funds totaling $200,000. These were outside of the granting process. And then we divided them to Issaquah Community Services, St. Vincent de Paul, and then the YWCA in Sammamish. So these are some of the numbers and how many households were served with those funds. And then just a brief reminder for you on the next steps as commissioners. The applications open early March. We have March 20th. It's our next Human Services Commission meeting when we'll do an overview and review to prepare for those applications. It's not here on the screen because I just learned today about the March 25th equity training. More information to come on that. April 8th, the applications close, and then our Human Services Commission meeting on April 17th. You should have the summary of the grants available. We'll work hard to give you the summaries, to give you access to the applications. So I think that's about it. Questions, concerns? What would be more helpful for you as we move into this next page? What would be less helpful?
I love the highlight that Hannah included in there about the higher level of cooperation between organizations. I can't find the slide right now. Because I feel like that benefits everyone. So that's, I'm happy she saw that and included it in the report.
Yeah, sure. So many times, even I remember for just more recently, for the strategic plan update, we did a few focus groups and we had nonprofit organizations come to those focus groups. And it was so interesting to see how, oh, I never heard about your services. I never heard about your services. Let's connect and try to leverage this. Right. And then as you know, all of you know from Welcoming Week, having the resource fair, how much one of the biggest highlight of that was organizations saying, I didn't know about these organizations. I learned so much. So we'll definitely continue to do that since it's helpful.
Do you think that we'll approach evaluating these applications similar to how we did it 2 years ago, where people will be broken off into groups and groups will have different, they will focus on maybe one vertical.
Yeah, that was something that worked, I think, in the last 2 application cycles. So definitely we'll talk more about that next month. But I think that worked. And so we would love to recommend to continue that. When I first came to the city, every commissioner read all the applications and they right. And so you will have access to all the applications. And if you have the time to put in, please, by all means, it's not that you're not going to have access, but it's also asking a lot from a commissioner to read 80 to 90 or 100 applications. So dividing them in groups and having, it gives you more time to, if you read 15 to 20, it's more meaningful time. And then you also trust your fellow commissioners that everybody did their job in their own bucket area, right? So you heard, I don't think, it's asking a lot from a volunteer group to to be that many, especially when all of you have full-time jobs and families and other commitments.
Thank you. Thank you for that report.
Okay, you're very, very welcome. Thank you. Just the same.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, we're probably doing pretty good with time.
Yeah.
Okay, the chair and commissioner reports. Does anybody have anything they want to report out on? It might come to you later. Yeah. And then we don't have a youth report. Or you do?
We don't have a youth, but we do have a small youth report.
Okay.
Preston is on midwinter break, and so I'm so happy that he's enjoying that. But he did let me know that they are working on their conference, and actually he sent me via email the Eventbrite application for their youth conference. So I'm gonna follow up and send it to you via email. If you're interested, he was welcoming people to sign up and attend. And so that's the youth update.
Thank you for that, and thank you to Preston to giving us a report, even though he's not here.
I know, isn't he magical like that?
Yeah.
Our next president.
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you. So in terms of staff report, I gave you most of the staff report that I had, but I do have still a couple of things. The most important one coming up this weekend, February 24th and 25th here at the community center, Black History Month celebration. We have an art exhibit in collaboration with Onyx, and then also with a few community members who worked really hard and creating it. The exhibit goes on from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. There will be free desserts and beverages until supplies last, but there's going to be peach cobbler and banana pudding and all the things that, oh my gosh, you need to go and try them out. Also on Sunday at 2 p.m. as a closeout ceremony, there will be a small gathering, some artists speaking about their art, the organizers having some closing remarks, and Mayor Polly will also be there with some closing remarks. So if you have a chance and if you're interested, definitely you can go there all weekend long, but also on Sunday at around 2 p.m. For the closeout ceremony. So excited about that.
Manny, are you doing anything with your art? I mean, is it going to be there?
No,
Okay.
I have not this year.
What you were saying, Monica, reminded me that I think there are just a couple of art pieces of the historic Shell Station too for Black History Month, if anybody's interested.
Oh.
I'm not sure. I can't remember the hours. I'm no longer part of the Downtown Association, but I still receive emails. So.
Okay, no, yes, that's great. And yeah, I think I saw something on the website too, but I don't know exactly the times and hours. On the Diaz website.
Yeah.
Association website is there. Great. Okay, and other than that, commissioners, we talked about the equity training on March 25th. More information to follow up via email. We talked about the board recruitment, so I'll follow up with Huma, and if you know anyone else who is interested in serving on a board or commission at the city, the applications are currently open, and they do close, I believe, early March. So there's some time, and then more information is coming out in the Insider. All of you should receive the Insider. You are receiving the Insider, right? Okay, thank you. We talked about the emergency housing program. We go to the City Council Services, Safety and Parks Committee next week. So that really concludes my staff report.
Sounds good. Okay, other business or announcements or anything for the good of the order? It's going to be springtime when we meet next, right?
It will be springtime.
Busy.
Huh?
So we're gonna be busy with the.
I was just doing a head count of who had done the granting before. There were 4 of us,
Yeah,
right? And then Maury.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's, you guys will learn a lot.
I do have a question. So will it be next meeting or at some point? Not at a meeting where the groups, the vertical kind of subject matter groups are decided? How does
Yes.
that process work? to make it-
That's a good, great question. Thank you, Rucker. So, first step, we'll reach out to you via email to ask if, once we receive all the applications and we are gonna see all the organizations, we are gonna share that with you and we are gonna reach out to you to let us know if you have any conflict of interest. So if you're serving on a board of any of the organization, or if you're volunteering with any of the organizations, or if you're working with any of the organizations, you're not gonna be allowed to make recommendations for that. So that's gonna be the first step. Once we identify where there are conflicts of interest, then usually Hannah and I, we're trying to do the math and saying, okay, so this person cannot review the housing continuum, and this person cannot review the behavioral health one. And so we are gonna try to assign you to buckets just based on that. And then we are gonna send it out to you and say, okay, these are the buckets based on the conflicts of interest. Are you okay with all of this? So then once we have that, then we'll proceed. So that's a little bit of math and art combined to that, if that makes a little bit of sense. Yes.
But to answer your question, yeah, Manny, Maury and I were in a group together and we had several meetings outside the normal commission meeting. Yeah.
So, probably, so because you're gonna start working in small groups, so we have the regular monthly meetings, so March, April, May, June. Probably July, we are not gonna have a regular meeting because June and July is when you're gonna meet in your smaller meetings. And probably we'll come back in August as a larger meeting where you're gonna make your recommendations to the rest of the groups. And then we'll finish the recommendations in August, or we'll finish them in September. But ideally, we should finish them in August so we can hand them to Mayor Polly for them to be included in the budget.
Wasn't August an off month last year?
Yes.
So is it?
It is.
Okay, oh, I see, it just depends, it just depends on the
Just
workload.
depends, right, depends on the workload, yes. Probably this, I mean, we can always look, if commissioners are out on vacation, we can look at having a special meeting that's sometimes not at the regular meeting in August. But especially for this year, typically August is not an off meeting. July will be, but typically it's because you're too busy with
Yeah.
friends. Yes, and usually in a group, so depending on how many we have 2-3 people in a group.
And the group comes to agreement amongst themselves.
Yes, with
On
town.
that subject matter. Set of
Yeah.
applications and then presents to the
With
larger.
a larger group.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, didn't you and Hannah kind of come up with your recommendations for how the money should be split among the verticals?
Yes, so we do a little bit of work on that end.
Yeah.
And so what we did and what we'll probably continue to do, so we have the exact amount of dollars or approximate amount of money. And then we look at how many total applications we received and how many applications we have in each bucket. So then typically then we assign, let's say if we had 30 out of 100 applications, 30 in one bucket, then we might assign about 30% of the funds to that bucket. And the same, so we assign percentages based on the number of applications that were received. And then we also do a second, depending, let's say, if you recommend, depending, we are gonna say, okay, so you have this much money to recommend, but then as we work with the different groups, if we hear that, well, this group really has, let's say, 30% of the funds, but they don't want to make recommendations to 30% of the applications, but this group needs more money, we can also transfer money from.
I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked out pretty well last year.
Um,
Last time.
Seems like just last year.
It seems like this year. I don't know how many times we met up offline, but
Three times, two or three times.
Yeah.
There might have been times when
Yes.
just you and Maury and I met too. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we did a lot of reading offline.
Mhm.
So. Okay, any other questions or any other concerns? Okay,
Okay, the meeting's adjourned. See you on
Wow.
March 20th.
It's like a record, Trish.
thank you, everyone.
This one.